Hey guys, Real Estate Nate here, and today we're talking about everything you need to know if you're thinking about investing in a revenue property here in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. If you want to buy a property, put it on Airbnb, whatever platform, make some money, this video is for you. Now, the things I'll be talking about in this video, one, I'm going to be sharing a bunch of personal experience because I bought my revenue condo here 2 years ago and have been renting it out ever since, so I'll share a ton of information about that. I'm also going to be talking about some of the things that you might be worried about. How am I going to manage a property when I'm in a different country? What are some of the hidden expenses that I'm not thinking of that might come up? What about the low season and high season? Can I actually make money all year round? I'm gonna be talking about all that stuff. Also, this video is part of a series where I just load you guys up with as much value as possible. So if you like this type of content, please subscribe. I'm going to be creating more of it. And I wanna answer your questions. If you have questions or concerns about the real estate market here in Puerto Vallarta, comment below. I would love to address them and make videos specifically for you. Now, let's get started. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna talk about is management. How do you, living in a different country, manage a revenue property in Mexico? The first thing I wanna say is it is actually so simple. That's like the least of the worries. And from personal experience, when I first bought my condo, I did not live here. So I went through that exact process. There are options, and I'll just kind of briefly touch on three. Option number one, there's condos here that you can buy that are part of a building that actually has on-site management. For example, where I bought Pinnacle Properties, it operates as a hotel. So I own my condo in there, and I didn't opt into their program, but if I wanted to, I could literally just say, okay, yeah, I just bought this condo, please put it up on the market, on your website, all the things, and they do literally everything. Of course, they take their cut, but that's one option. That's like the full service branded on-site management. The second option is like full service management. There's a lot of different companies here in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico that, manage a ton of properties. They have their own platforms where they advertise them. Of course, they're also on Expedia and Airbnb and all the other places, but they will come in and they will handle everything. Usually in situations like that, they'll take, a percentage of the revenue and they literally handle everything as well. The third option, if you're willing to put in a little bit of work and if you're really focused on maximizing your return on investment, the third option is you can do, it's harder to find, but you can do more of like a hybrid situation. You can hire, rather than a big company, you can hire, a local manager or a local management company that might be willing to do a hybrid where you handle the Airbnb account, you handle the marketing of the listing, you chat and answer inquiries and things like that, but they handle everything on the ground, the cleanings, the maintenance, and stuff like that. So those three are the most common ways to manage your property when you don't live here. Now, the pros and cons of each. The first two, the full service management companies. Now, usually those are so good when you don't want to have to worry about anything. You don't have time to be dealing with all the maintenance and anything that happens. You don't have to think about anything. You just let them do what they do. They're so good at it. A pro of that too, like of course, you're giving them a percentage of the revenue. It might be like 15 to 25%, somewhere in that range, depending on the company. But what's good is not only are they taking care of everything, but you're also being advertised on their platforms. Usually they have, a platform in addition to Airbnb and Expedia and all the places they're gonna advertise your condo. They themselves have their own website where they have generated over years and years of business, this, loyal following that always come back to their platform. So that's another huge benefit of going with one of these rental management companies, is because your condo being listed with them is going to get even more views, chances to be booked. Now, the positive side of doing a little bit more work is you're not giving up that percentage of revenue. So there are situations where you can just like kind of pay per use kind of thing, and you can, pay them like a monthly retainer to be on site and maintain things, but you're not giving them a percentage of the revenue. You might pay this much per cleaning and this much per check-in and this much per whatever needs to be done. And it's definitely a little more work, but if you're really trying to maximize your return on investment, that's an option that some people choose. So my recommendation is how to find the management company that best suits you is reach out to a few of them and ask some important questions. These are the questions I would write down. One, do you have any projected revenue expectations for my type of unit. So if it's a 2-bed, 2-bath condo in this area, what are the projected revenues for this suite? Ask them what they think. Number 2, I would ask them what their fees are. And here's the important part. Not only what their monthly fees are, if there's like a monthly retainer, what their percentage of the revenue they take is, and then also what extra fees they are going to be charging you. Because some management companies, they will charge you extra for cleaning fees and things like that. And for some management companies, it's actually already included in the price. So that's a very important thing to ask. Also, you want to ask if there's any restrictions on how often you can use your condo. Some management companies, not very often, but some will say like, well, no, if you want us to manage it for you, we want to actually make money with this property. So they might set in place some restrictions. Most don't, but it's just something to ask. Another thing too is ask them, if you have friends that you want to come down, how do they charge, things like that. Like if you still want them to do the check-in and do all that stuff, but let's say your friends aren't actually paying you, things like that. Ask about those little scenarios. It's always good to just know up front how they work, because they'll already have a plan when it comes to all of those things. If you have friends staying there that you're not charging, if you have friends staying there that you are charging, all things like that, it's important to ask. So the next thing I want to talk about is the seasons. Now, some people will say like, oh yeah, you can't rent during low season, no one comes, yada, yada, yada. That's not true. If you leave your rates at where they are during high season for low season, of course you're not going to rent anything. You will be completely open and vacant for the entire low season. But if you actually lower the price a little bit, you can absolutely rent. In low season, that's actually kind of like Mexican national season. So, in high season, of course, prices go crazy, and the majority of my renters are Canadians and Americans. In low season, of course, there's still some Canadians and Americans coming down, but when I lower my rates, the thing is, that's when a lot of the Mexican nationals from Guadalajara and Mexico City and those inland cities, they want to come and experience the beach. So that's when they come. It's a little bit cheaper. For them, it's a drive or a quick flight away. So there is still absolutely a season, especially lately here in Puerto Vallarta. It doesn't die like it used to. There's still some things going on. So as long as you adjust your prices accordingly, you can absolutely rent during low season. But obviously just know that high season is your money-making season. And your low season, yes, you can still stay booked, but it's going to be for significantly less. So another thing that's really important is to find a realtor that has a good idea of like purchasing revenue properties, because there's a huge difference between having someone help you find your dream home and just being able to share, yeah, I want a pool, I want ocean view, and I want this. It's so easy for any realtor to go on and find exactly that on Flex MLS. Now, it's a little bit different when you're saying, my priorities are, I want a 2-bed, 2-bath in one of the most desirable areas. I want to make at least this much return on investment, and I want somewhere where I don't have to worry about the occupancy thing. I don't want to have a struggle to find renters. I want people that want my unit constantly. It's a little harder to find. You can't type that into Flex MLS. So it's important to work with a realtor that has an idea of this market and can search out the properties that are priced low in comparison to what they can rent for, or priced high but can rent incredibly well. You don't want to be led into a position where, yes, you're buying this beautiful condo, it looks stunning, but the realtor didn't realize that, ooh, yeah, this area doesn't rent as well, or ooh, yeah, it's up this hill, people don't rent up this way as often. So like I said, it's important to find a realtor that actually knows revenue properties. That's me. So if you have questions, I got you. But yeah, obviously that's important. You know what I mean? Anyways, moving on. So the next thing I want to talk about are the expenses. So obviously, when you have like a projected revenue, like this is how much I think I can make in gross income, now you have to start doing all your deductions, figure out what your actual ROI is going to be. Now, of course, off the top, 15 to 25% for property management if that's the route you go. Now, some other fees that of course you have to factor in. Your HOA and your utilities. Those are things that are obviously very common that you need to factor in. And of course, it'll change depending on the type of property you're buying. Those are things that your realtor can reach out about when you're looking at different condos to buy. Other things good news, one, these are things that people don't usually think about. One, property tax here in PV is way less than it is in the United States and Canada. Here, for like a 2-bed, 2-bath condo, about 1,000 square feet, my property taxes were like $175 per year. So it's like nothing compared to up north. And then one thing that a lot of people forget is just your trust fee when you're buying down in PV. If you're a foreigner, you need to have a trust, and I think it's like $500. It does go up each year, but it starts around $500. So that's one other fee that you have to factor in. And then the other things like maintenance and cleaning supplies and stuff like that. You know, if you want to reach out, I can give you estimates on how much stuff like that would cost. I can share all my numbers with you. But yeah, other things like that. But the property tax is the best thing because it's so low. And then you don't want to forget about the trust. And of course, HOA, CFE, like your utilities and stuff like that, you also need to factor in. So I also wanted to share my personal experience with you guys. So I bought my condo here 2 years ago. I put my offer in February of 2022. I got possession around end of April 2022, and I've been renting it out ever since. Now, a great thing about my experience is I bought a condo that was fully furnished, fully turnkey, had plates and linens and everything. So it was great. I actually listed my unit on Airbnb and stuff before I even had possession. Obviously I didn't set the availability date until I knew I was closing, but I had renters in there like literally 2 weeks after closing. So that's one great thing about purchasing a turnkey unit down here. You can start making money immediately, which is so good. And I spent $0. I tell you, zero. I did not buy a plate, a towel, a sheet. I bought nothing. So I didn't have to factor in any other expenses, and I was already making money. So that was an awesome thing. I have been renting it out ever since. As far as my property management strategy, I managed to find a hybrid situation where I manage the Airbnb, I manage my VRBO account. Those are my only two platforms that I use, and really Airbnb is my number one. VRBO is just cuz. And I do the prices, all that stuff. Sometimes I'll also post my Airbnb link into different Facebook groups from PV. That's another good strategy for me. I'm marketing myself. So that's how I've been able to get some like off-platform listings. And so I manage all that stuff. And even when I didn't live here, I managed all that stuff. When someone hit me up on Airbnb and said, hey, we'd like to book, yada, 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 I give them all the information. And then I work with a local management company here, and they handle all my check-ins and my cleanings and all the maintenance and everything like that. So that was the way I went. I have found that I was able to make a little bit more money doing it that way. Of course, you know, if I get a message on Airbnb, I'm responding. I'm doing that stuff, so I do have to pay attention. But it was worth it for me for a little bit extra money I could make. So also when I was looking to purchase my unit, some of the things that I did to be proactive is, you know, I would actually look on Airbnb at units that were similar to the units I was looking at and see what they were charging, because then I could get an idea of like what the nightly rate could be, and I could kind of do a little work on my own even before I started in real estate. Just by doing that research, could try and figure out, you know, a projected revenue that I might be able to expect. So that's something I also recommend. Of course, when I'm working with clients, I'll do a lot of work as well. I always recommend, you know, do as much research like that as you can. So another thing I wanted to share too is why I actually decided to go for it and buy here versus other places. Because I was actually looking, I knew I wanted to invest. I had wanted to do this Airbnb thing for a while, and I was looking at doing it back home in Vancouver too, and I was looking at Calgary. For me, it was all about numbers. Like, I took my emotions out of it. It was all about numbers, and Vancouver just didn't add up, because especially to Vancouver, there's a ton of restrictions about short-term rentals. You couldn't even do short-term. I had to do long-term. So what I could get in rent, what I could make each month compared to all the expenses that I would incur was like nothing. So for me, Vancouver, out. You're not making money short-term in Vancouver. Maybe if you purchase and the market keeps going crazy, you'll build that equity, but even that isn't like it used to be. So my recommendation, and if you're like a ridiculous expert real estate investor that wants to prove me wrong, please do. I'm so curious, but no, Vancouver, done. Not worth it unless you're like a millionaire and just looking to park money. I was looking at other places like Calgary and Kelowna and stuff, and things like that could work, but I also struggled to find management companies that were affordable. A lot of the management companies, and like even like if you think about it, the cost to clean an apartment down here is way less than the cost to hire cleaners for an apartment in Calgary. So I was like, ooh, that's gonna eat up my margin so much. And you know, the short-term rental market in Calgary isn't like it is here. Here, you know, obviously it's a vacation area. In the zone, there's also tons of events, there's tons of things. So like all the numbers that I did, all the research, PV always came on top when it comes to purchasing an Airbnb. Now, of course, there's a million other things to invest in. So of course, do your comparisons, all that stuff. But when it comes to purchasing a revenue property, you know, PV is still an incredible place to earn that rental income. I was looking for something that would actually make money every year, and so far this has been that. So I am beyond happy, to the point where I now work helping other people do exactly what I did. Like, that's how good it worked for me. So that's why I was like, okay, yeah, let me help other people do what I did. So if you want help, of course, I got you. I can help you find that, you know, condo that's great for return on investment that actually helps you make money. Now, like I said at the beginning, if you guys have questions, if this video brought up any other questions for you, or if you have any questions when it comes to the Puerto Vallarta real estate market, I would love to help. So please ask them. The comments help, even if it's just like, thanks for the info. It helps with the algorithm, it helps the channel grow. So I do appreciate all the comments, all the likes, and all the follows. They help build this channel so I can continue to give as much value to you guys as my audience. Thank you so much for making it this far. If you're not subscribed, I don't know what you're doing. But anyways, I will see you at the next video. Bye.